Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Sendar333 here, bringing you another Missing Players Manual video on Attack. So, what is Attack? It's a champion statistic that's used to calculate the damage you deal with your basic attacks. It's also the foundation on which almost all enhanced damage is built, and when I say enhanced damage, I mean critical hit damage, special attack damage, or other things in the game. It's also used to calculate the damage for most damage-dealing debuffs or other effects that your champions inflict. If you're curious, this is what's usually listed in the champion description as like a green number, you know, Blades Bleed, for example, off of his parry, for example, and it's just a multiplier of the champion's base attack and scales with the champion's attack. So you'll notice if you change your masteries around, this number will actually shift and change. It's actually further affected beyond that green value when you actually go into the fight if you have things like boosts or node effects or some sort of buff that changes your attack for the most part, although some don't change with buffs or other things. It's kind of specific to each champion. How is it calculated? Well, it's not exactly calculated. It's assigned for each champion by the game developers. It increases with a champion's rank, level, and star rating, as you may know, and then it's modified by any potential modifiers, such as masteries, boosts, synergies, node effects, any buffs or debuffs that you have on your character, etc. One particularly interesting modifier is it's the only stat affected by class relationships. And so each class has an advantage over another class and then a corresponding disadvantage to the class that has an advantage over it. So Cosmic has an advantage over Tech, Tech has a disadvantage over Cosmic, and so on and so forth kind of as you go around this wheel here. What does that actually translate into? Well, when you have the class advantage, it means about a 40% boost in attack, and your opponent suffers about a 20% decrease in attack. On the flip side, if you have a class disadvantage, you have a 20% decrease in your attack, and the opponent has a 40% increase in their attack. Now, one kind of interesting thing, if you were paying way closer attention than you probably should be to the last two slides, was that if you do the math, Captain America's stat boost is only about 36%, whereas it was exactly 40% for Iron Fist, our opponent. For King Groot, it was only a 17.6% decrease for the class disadvantage, whereas Iron Fist had a 19.7% decrease, which, special note, is it's the closest whole number that didn't go over 20%. As well. And that's because through a weird quirk, the boost or penalty that's applied to the champion's attack is before any masteries, boosts, synergies, or any other modifiers. It's just the base attack. So if you want to find that information out, to nerd out a little bit and find exactly how your champion's number is going to change, you can look up the base statistic on antm.ai if you don't want to turn off all your masteries or other things to kind of get a pure value. Next, how does attack translate into basic attack damage? Well, light attacks deal about 25% of attack, medium attacks deal 40% of attack, and heavy attacks deal 85% of attack. And for any of these versions that have multiple hits to a single medium attack, light attack, or heavy attack, that damage is divided up between all of the attack, or all of the hits of that particular attack. Just to prove this and kind of show you some math, I'm going to show you some pictures I took doing some testing against Iron Fist, specifically the 3-star Unawakened Iron Fist in Act 2, Chapter 4, Quest 1. Reason I chose this guy, well, here's his base statistics, and most importantly to note is he's got no armor, no energy resistance, no physical resistance, nothing that is going to affect the final damage output of our champion. He is essentially Mr. Vanilla. And if you don't believe me, here's his homeboy Vanilla Ice giving him a shout out. So once again, doing that testing here, I used my 2-star Civil Warrior, got a light attack here doing 50, medium attack doing 78, and then here's both hits of his heavy attack doing 42 and 124 respectively. Here's the same thing with my 2-star Rocket Raccoon, light attack doing a very painful, I might add, 59 damage, medium high kick there doing 92, and then I actually managed to get a screenshot with both hits of his heavy having their numbers pop up, and they're each 98. To have all this math kind of written out, just so you can see that it actually does translate into that, light attack For 2-star Raccoon here was 25.6, medium was exactly 40, and heavy attack was 85.2. The reason why I put those kind of squiggly about 20%, or sorry, 25%, 40, and 85% is that it rounds to kind of the closest whole number to that value, which is why there's little fractions of a percent left over here when we kind of do the reverse calculation. You may be asking yourself now, well, what is a good attack? Well, in-game presently, the attack values for rank 5-star, rank 5, level 65 champs range from 1670, which is King Groot if you're curious, to 2888, which is Clairvoyant. If you average out all the various values, it's 2359, but I don't really think this tells the whole story, or even the best story as to what is kind of a standard base attack, and therefore how to know what is a good attack might be above that. You could look at the median, which is the attack value in the dead center of all the various values, and a few champions have this 2346 value. But I think the best one is to look at the mode, which is 2301. That's the most common value amongst champions, and I think this is what Kabam, at least for a 5-star 565 champ, thinks is the base attack value. Whenever I kind of grade a champion's attack value, I think of anything over 2301 as good, anything below it as bad. If you want to see it graphically, here's how kind of all of the various attack values in the game distribute. One really interesting thing when you kind of see the data splayed out like this is that if you look at the far left end, and a couple of names didn't quite make it just for visual effect here, but King Groot and the Champion have two of the lowest attack values in the game, and they're really big beefy dudes, whereas on the far right hand side here you can see Wasp, and then two that aren't pictured here are Rocket Raccoon and Clairvoyant have like the three highest attack values in the game. And in general it seems that Kabam favors higher attack values for smaller and female champions, and lower attack values for bigger, beefier, and male champions for some reason. Also, I just wanted to give you a couple disclaimers as you're using this to kind of figure things out on how you want to play, and maybe rank up decisions you want to make. Attack alone does not tell the whole story on a champion's damage output. There are a number of different multipliers of this. So if someone has a low base attack but a very high multiplier, they could do much more damage than a champion with a very high attack value and low multipliers. There's also things like damage dealing debuffs, other ways that champions kind of creatively do damage that is not reflected in the attack value alone. The other flip side of that too is that attack alone doesn't determine the final damage that a different champion takes from your champions. We chose Iron Fist today because he didn't have anything that modified, but other champions do. They have things like armor, resistances, and other effects that will reduce the final damage that champions take from your champion. With that, thanks for your time today. Would really appreciate some likes. Please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. Just getting things started here, and would be happy to have your help building the channel. Thanks for your time.